We all want to learn and improve at League, and what better way than asking questions? Questions both to other people and yourself can help you speed up the learning process. The problem that I see a lot is that people generally aren't asking the highest quality of questions, and I don't think that's solely their fault. What I mean by high quality is that the question is based in getting effective and practical information. I know it's not a great definition, but you should see more exactly what I mean as we go through the video. I think it can be often difficult to realize that a question is not very helpful because the intention in asking is correct. And what makes it even harder is that you don't know what you don't know, so sometimes you just need to ask. In this video, I'm going to give you all of the do's and don'ts of asking high quality questions so you can be priming your mind to ask questions that should really boost the effectiveness of the answers that you get. Starting with the first don't ask generic questions. Questions like, how do I play side lane as a mage? Should I roam more or stay mid? Should I help the losing lane or not? These questions have good intentions, but the problem is that they're detached from reality. There is too much nuance when it comes to actually making decisions in a specific League of Legends game, and these questions do not include the nuance. This is why answering these questions is so difficult without understanding the exact game state, because it all depends on changing variables. Take for example the question, how do I play side lane as a mage? Well, are you ahead of your laner? Is your team ahead? Does the enemy team have a lot of engage? How long into the game is it? These and many more factors contribute to the answer here in each scenario. I could give you some general advice, but it's probably not going to help you in the long run because all of the important specifics won't be thought about. But that leads us perfectly into our first do, which is do be specific. Which side of the map should I move to on this specific base? Alongside a clip or a screenshot of the game would be a great specific question, and that could even be expanded on to how you could properly play that side of the map. Now I know it's not possible to get answers from people you are asking with clips or screenshots, but even providing information about champion strength, matchups, or general game state could help. But at the end of the day, it's much more difficult to get answers without the in-game specifics. This is why it's so important to review your own games and be critical of it, find a partner to review with, or try to find close comparisons in high elo games. Now getting into our second don't is don't ask questions that aren't long-term oriented. I feel like the amount of times I've heard a question like, what do I do when all of my team is losing, is way too much. There are a few reasons that this question or something similar comes up. Tilt, frustration, maybe just a few unlucky games that makes it feel like it's something you actually need to figure out. But never has anything ever been learned by asking a question like this, because there is no answer. First of all, most questions focused on short-term issues or things that won't really be relevant to your improvement are very generic, which we already discussed is a big don't. But they also often lead you away from the most important questions that will actually get you results in the long term. So be wary when you ask a question. Is this question something that will lead to long-term progress? Or is this based in the short term and possible frustration? We want to ask questions that are going to help us in the long term, and having your entire team losing will be such a small percentage of your games, so trying to find some way to change the outcomes of those games will not give you the most return on your investment, and I can already guarantee it's not the reason you're not climbing. Getting into our second do, it's do ask questions that take responsibility. This should help you make sure that you're focusing on the right things, your decisions and play. If you ever feel like there's a play that happened in the game and you're ready to blame some other external factor, make sure that you bring it back to yourself. How could I have had more influence in this play? Is there something I could have done to prevent this bad outcome? Oftentimes people stop when they see their team make a bad play. But if you ask these questions, you'll realize how much more you could be doing to benefit plays that may initially seem like they're completely unrelated to you. Now I do want to be careful with this one because we need to remember our last don't of not asking short-term focused questions because we want to learn and improve on the things that are going to give us the most return on our investment. It's true, sometimes your team just misplayed and there's nothing you could have done, and you need to be both honest and reasonable with yourself. First, you can ask if you could have changed the outcome or influenced the play more, but then you have to ask yourself, is it something that's recurring and important for you to put energy into? It's a tricky balance, but it's important to lock down. The final two do's and don'ts are going to be focused on things that you should ask yourself after games. First, don't ask questions that are based in biases. How did my team misplay is a classic example of a question that leads you to look for things that will prove your theory right that your team misplayed. Most of the time, I think questions like, why didn't my jungler gank me? Or how did my ADC get picked before the objective? Are generally based in biases as well. But the funny thing is that these actually can be high quality questions if you're in the right frame of mind for it. But you need to be genuinely curious so you can understand why that happened, and that way you can make a better decision in the future or prevent a bad play. If you can understand why something happened, it will help you adapt to prevent bad outcomes in the future. But you also need to be able to let it go if it's not that important to your long-term improvement like we talked about before. And the final do ask questions that lead to more possibilities. When you come across a point in the game where you just didn't feel comfortable on how the game was going, ask yourself what other options you had and what other possibilities there were. Could you have done something else? How could that have changed the game state? This will lead you to be more specific in-game understanding and help you find plays that previously you would not have thought about. Many people lock themselves at surface level. They see a fight and they often respond with, "Oh, I should have played it better." Yeah, sure you could have, but let's expand. Why are you taking the fight in the first place? Doesn't make sense. What other options did you had? What led you to make this decision 30 seconds ago? Asking these questions could lead you to realize that there are a plethora of other options that could drastically change your view of a situation. And those, in my opinion, are the most important do's and don'ts of asking high quality questions. League is a complicated game with a lot of specifics and details that can have large effects on the game, and asking high quality questions is a great way to get the most improvement in learning. Let me know if you have any thoughts or questions in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.